Have you ever wondered why with some soils it's just impossible to get the water back down into it? Let's have a look at this soil here. It's a classic example. We've had a little bit of rain, about 4 mils of rain has fallen overnight, and this garden bed here is a typical sort of garden bed that is cultivated with vegetables and other things. Let's have a closer look at the actual soil profile. If we dig down, you can see that this soil is actually quite dry underneath. The water that's fallen overnight has only just sunk in over about 1.5 centimetres, so there's really not a great deal of water penetration. So all the roots of any plants that might be growing in there are actually going to be sitting in dry soil. So these types of soils, you could argue, are what they call impermeable soils. They're difficult to get water actually into them.
This is a good example of an impermeable or hydrophobic soil. It's in under this big agonis here, and it's had a good layer of pine bark on it for the last couple of years, which can tend to strip the soil of any structure, of water and of nutrients. Now, I'll show you this here, scrape a bit back, and as you can see, I pour a bit of water and it just sort of beads off and runs off. So how do you get the water in there? Well, there are products like this. This is soil wetting granules. All it does is really breaks up the surface tension of the water. It's really just glorified soap. But once you get the water in there, how do you keep it in there? Well, water crystals like these can be purchased and they're quite cheap. But make sure when you use them, you mix them with water first into this sort of gel. And make sure when you put them in the soil, you put them down to about 20 to 30 centimetres deep.
One of the best ways of actually organically getting that water back into your soil is the addition of a really good quality compost. Now, some of this type of compost includes your homemade stuff that's made from a good range of scraps from around the garden, and you get this beautiful compost material here. Now, that's fantastic to add to your soil. It'll encourage soil organism activity, which in turn will give you really good water infiltration into your soil. Now, what we've done here is we've pre-prepared a very small little hole, a little crater, or what we call a swale. So what we're going to do is we're going to add our compost to that and mix it through. So you can add up to 10 litres or more to a small hole like this. 10 litre bucket, let's add that compost. So what we're going to do is mix that compost all the way through that bed, add in your soil, and really mix that through. If you grab a trowel, you can get right down. You want to get that down to about 200 mil, 250 mil in that sort of area. So 200 is about the average sort of root depth, right through to about 300 mil into the soil profile. So blood and bone is a fantastic additive to a soil as well, and you can certainly add that. No more than about 100 grams per square metre, and it's just a light scatter over the actual soil itself. Now, we've got to make sure that we actually dig that into that soil profile down to about that 200 mil mark. An alternative to the blood and bone is the chicken manure pellets, and these are fabulous, and there's a few brands that are actually certified organic as well by National Organic Association, so they're quite useful. But once again, only at a small quantity, less than 100 grams, sprinkled over the surface of the soil and dig it in. So now what we're going to do is prepare our swale pod, and mate, I'll need a hand for this.
Now all you got to do is form a circle and then push the inside of it up to form mounds or on either side, like a big crater or a meteorite has hit the site. It's a great thing to do with kids actually. Now that's looking pretty good there. Go no deeper than about 20 centimetres. This is usually a good guide. Now you can plant inside the actual crater or swale pod, or you can plant on the outsides, depending on the structure of your soil. Obviously there will be an element of erosion there, so planting out the sides can hold the soil in place. But the next thing we need to do is actually to fill this up.
Yeah.
Giving it a good pre-soak before you plant will allow that soil to take up a bit of water, and those plants will go in there. It'll also give them a bit of firmness.
So what we're trying to do is now fill that hole right up with water, and that will gradually then work its way into that soil profile. This way, it's feeding that little recharge zone underneath this garden bed, and that'll mean that you don't need to re-water this site until another 7 days or more has passed. So mate, this is looking really good already, and we can see we've got those lettuce already planted, and we're going to put a couple more in here. These are fantastic lettuce plants. They've already established a root system here. You can see they've been grown in what we call a plug tray. Any sort of seedling plugs would do for this. And make sure though that the ground in the bottom of your swale pod is actually really well watered before you start planting.
Look, a couple of tips like this that are very simple will save you a lot of water. Really, when it comes to improving your soil structure, the addition of any organic matter is a good thing.
So what we're going to actually do now is just get these last two planted, and then we're going to give it another good soak.
Damn straight.